Disclaimer: the following story is a work of fiction. Any similarities to real persons, places, or events are purely coincidental. The chilling mist of Kurseong, West Bengal, had a peculiar bite that night. Jalaj, a 40-year-old laundryman, was late. His usual route home was a familiar path, a comforting rhythm in the chaotic symphony of his life. But tonight, a premonition, a cold dread, gnawed at him. It was as if the very air carried whispers of something sinister. Kurseong, nestled amidst the Himalayas, was a place of beauty and serenity. Yet, under its veil of tranquility, old tales lurked, tales of the Bengal Dayan, a witch, a demon, a harbinger of terror. Most dismissed these as folklore, but tonight, as Jalaj trudged through the deserted streets, the stories took on a chilling reality. A sudden gust of wind whipped around him, carrying with it the scent of decay and something off. The streetlights flickered, casting grotesque shadows that danced and writhed like tormented souls. Jalaj's heart pounded like a trapped bird, a frantic rhythm echoing the eerie silence. He quickened his pace, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The mist thickened, obscuring his vision. A twig snapped behind him, and he whirled around, his eyes straining to pierce the veil of white. Nothing, just the wind, howling like a wounded beast. Then a shape emerged from the mist. A woman, tall and gaunt, with eyes that burned like embers in the night. Her skin was ashen, her hair a tangled mass of snakes. She was the Bengal Dayan. Terror seized Jalaj. His legs turned to jelly. He wanted to run, to scream, but his body refused to obey. The Dayan's laughter, a chilling, hollow sound, echoed through the night. "Jalaj," she hissed, her voice like ice scraping against stone. "You have seen what you should not have seen." His tongue felt thick and heavy. He tried to speak, but no sound came out. The Dayan took a step closer, and Jalaj could smell the iron in the air, the scent of impending doom. Her eyes, those burning orbs, seemed to pierce his soul. "You will pay," she whispered, her voice carrying a promise of eternal torment. Then, as suddenly as she appeared, she vanished into the mist, leaving behind a silence so profound it was almost deafening. Jalaj collapsed to the ground, his mind a maelstrom of fear and disbelief. When he finally managed to stand, he stumbled home, his body trembling uncontrollably. The warmth of his home offered little solace. The image of the Dayan haunted him, her malevolent gaze burned into his retinas. Days turned into weeks, but the terror did not subside. Nightmares consumed him, filled with the Dayan's grotesque visage and her chilling laughter. His once robust health began to deteriorate. He lost weight, his eyes grew hollow, and his skin turned a sickly pallor. People started to whisper about him, about the changes in his behavior. Some blamed it on stress, others on a broken heart. But Jalaj knew the truth. The Dayan's curse was consuming him. One night, as the moon cast an eerie glow over Kurseong, Jalaj felt a cold hand grip his heart. The Dayan was coming for him. He tried to fight, to scream, but his body was paralyzed by fear. Then, darkness enveloped him. When he woke, he was in a hospital bed. The doctor said he had suffered a severe nervous breakdown. But Jalaj knew the truth. The Dayan had taken something from him, something far more precious than his physical health. She had stolen his peace of mind, his sanity. From that day forward, Jalaj lived in a twilight world, a prisoner of his own terror. The Bengal Dayan had claimed another victim, her legend growing stronger with each passing day. And in the heart of Kurseong, where beauty and horror coexist, the whispers of the Dayan continue to echo, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurks in the shadows. Jalaj was a changed man. The once jovial laundryman was now a gaunt figure, his eyes holding the depths of a haunted soul. People whispered about him, their voices laced with fear and pity. Some said he was mad. Others claimed he had seen a ghost. But Jalaj knew the terrifying truth. He had seen the Bengal Dayan. His small, once cozy home had become a prison. The shadows danced with grotesque shapes, mocking him. Every creak and groan of the old house was a phantom's whisper. Sleep was a luxury he could no longer afford. His nights were filled with the Dayan's chilling laughter, her skeletal fingers reaching out to drag him into the abyss. In his desperation, Jalaj sought solace in old books, hoping to find a clue, a weakness, anything that could help him defeat the Dayan. He spent countless hours poring over dusty tomes, delving into the murky depths of folklore and mythology. It was in one such book that he stumbled upon a chilling detail. The Bengal Dayan, it was said, was not always a malevolent spirit. Once she was a woman, beautiful and kind, a healer revered by the people. But a tragic betrayal, a heart broken beyond repair, had transformed her into the monstrous creature she had become. A curse, born of sorrow and vengeance, bound her to this world, forever trapped in a cycle of torment. A flicker of hope ignited in Jalaj's heart. If the Dayan had once been human, perhaps there was a way to break the curse, to restore her to her former self. But how? The book offered no answers, only a tantalizing glimpse into the Dayan's tragic past. Determined to find a solution, Jalaj began to explore the old, forgotten corners of Kurseong. He sought out the remnants of the Dayan's past, the places where her story had begun. His search led him to an ancient, crumbling temple, hidden deep in the heart of the forest. Local legends claimed it was once a place of worship for the Dayan, a sanctuary where she had tended to the sick and the injured. As he stepped into the temple, a wave of otherworldly energy washed over him. The air was thick with the scent of decay and something familiar. It was the same scent he had encountered on the night he first saw the Dayan. A shiver ran down his spine. He was not alone. The temple was a labyrinth of shadows and whispers. Dust motes danced in the shafts of sunlight that filtered through the broken roof. The air was thick with the scent of decay and incense, a heady mix that filled Jalaj with a sense of dread. As he ventured deeper into the temple, the walls seemed to close in around him, the oppressive weight of history pressing down on his shoulders. Suddenly, a sound echoed through the temple, a mournful wail that seemed to come from the very depths of the building. Jalaj's heart pounded in his chest. He knew that sound. It was the Dayan's voice. Fear gripped him, but a strange compulsion drove him forward. He followed the sound, his footsteps echoing in the silent expanse. The wail grew louder, more insistent. Then, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was the Dayan, but unlike the monstrous creature he had seen before, she was different. Her skin was pale and translucent. Her eyes held a haunting beauty. She was a ghost, a specter of her former self. "Jalaj," she whispered, her voice filled with sorrow. "You have sought me out." Terror and compassion warred within Jalaj. He wanted to flee, but something held him in place. I want to help you," he stammered. The Dayan's eyes seemed to pierce his soul. "To help me," she echoed, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. "You cannot help me. I am a prisoner of my own despair." As she spoke, the temple began to tremble. The walls cracked, and the roof groaned under the strain. A cold dread washed over Jalaj. He realized then that the Dayan's presence was destabilizing the very fabric of reality. "We must leave," he said, his voice barely a whisper. The Dayan looked at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and defiance. "I cannot leave," she said. "This is my prison, my torment." And with that, the temple began to collapse. The temple was collapsing around them, a maelstrom of dust and stone. Jalaj grabbed the Dayan's arm, his grip desperate. They stumbled through the chaos, the weight of the crumbling structure pressing down on them. A beam crashed down, inches from Jalaj's head. He pulled the Dayan with him, just as another section of the roof caved in. They emerged from the ruins, breathless and covered in dust. The once majestic temple was now a pile of rubble. The Dayan stood before him, her ethereal form flickering in the dim light. "You saved me," she whispered, her voice filled with a mixture of gratitude and disbelief. Jalaj shook his head. "It was you who saved me," he replied. A long silence fell between them. Then the Dayan spoke again. "I have been trapped in this cycle for centuries," she said. "My heart was broken, and in my despair, I unleashed a curse upon myself and this world." Her voice trembled as she continued. "I have caused untold suffering, and for that, I am truly sorry." A glimmer of hope ignited in Jalaj's heart. Perhaps there was still a chance to break the curse, to free the Dayan from her torment. "Is there a way to break the curse?" he asked, his voice filled with hope. The Dayan looked at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of sorrow and determination. "There is a way," she said, "but it will not be easy." She paused, her gaze distant. "It involves a sacrifice," she said finally. "A sacrifice of love." Jalaj's heart sank. He knew what she meant. To break the curse, he would have to give up everything he held dear. The sacrifice, the Dayan explained, was a love so pure and selfless that it could cleanse the darkness that consumed her, a love that transcended the bonds of this world. It was a love he had never known, a love he doubted he could ever achieve. Jalaj looked into the Dayan's eyes, seeing a reflection of his own despair. He knew that to save her, he would have to risk everything, including his own life. A cold dread washed over him, but a flicker of determination ignited within. "I will do it," he said, his voice barely a whisper. The Dayan's eyes widened in surprise. "Are you sure?" she asked. "The path you choose is fraught with peril. There is no guarantee of success." Jalaj nodded, his resolve unwavering. "I am ready," he said. The Dayan reached out and touched his hand. "Then let us begin," she said. As she spoke, the air around them shimmered, and the world seemed to shift. They were no longer in the ruins of the temple, but in a place of ethereal beauty, a realm beyond time and space. "This is where it all began," the Dayan said, her voice filled with sorrow. "This is where my heart was broken." As she spoke, a vision unfolded before them. A young woman, radiant and beautiful, stood in a field of golden wheat. She was surrounded by people, her laughter like music in the wind. But amidst the joy, there was a shadow, a darkness that crept into her heart. The vision changed. The young woman was alone, her eyes filled with tears, a broken heart, shattered like glass. And then, the transformation. The woman's skin turned ashen, her eyes burned with an unholy fire. The Bengal Dayan was born. The vision ended, and they were back in the ruins of the temple. The Dayan looked at Jalaj, her eyes filled with a profound sadness. "To break the curse," she said, "you must find a love as pure and selfless as mine once was. You must prove that love can conquer all, even the darkest of magic." And with that, she vanished, leaving Jalaj alone with the weight of his destiny. Jalaj was alone, adrift in a world of shadows and echoes. The Dayan's words echoed in his mind. A love pure and selfless, a love that could conquer all. But where was he to find such a love? His life had been ordinary, filled with the mundane rhythms of daily existence. Love for him had been a fleeting emotion, a gentle touch in the night, nothing that could possibly break a curse as ancient and powerful as the Dayan's. Desperation gnawed at him. He wandered through the streets of Kurseong, a ghost in his own life. People looked at him with pity, their eyes filled with unspoken questions. He was a pariah, a man haunted by a secret that consumed him. One night, as he walked along the deserted streets, he saw a light in a small cottage. Drawn by a sense of hope, he knocked on the door. A young woman answered, her eyes filled with kindness. Her name was Anya, a simple village girl with a heart as pure as the mountain snow. There was something about Anya that touched Jalaj's soul. Her laughter was like music, her smile a beacon in the darkness. He found himself drawn to her, drawn to the warmth and simplicity of her existence. In her, he saw a glimmer of hope, a chance to find the love he sought. As days turned into weeks, Jalaj spent more and more time with Anya. He found himself falling in love, a love that grew stronger with each passing day. It was a love born of companionship, of shared dreams, of a deep and abiding connection. But as his love for Anya deepened, so too did his fear. He knew that to save the Dayan, he would have to sacrifice his own happiness. He would have to let go of Anya, perhaps forever. The thought was unbearable, a pain that cut deep into his soul. Yet he pressed on, driven by a sense of duty, a hope that he could find a way to save both Anya and the Dayan. He knew that the road ahead was fraught with danger, but he was determined to face it. As their bond deepened, a strange transformation began to occur. Anya, once a simple village girl, started to exhibit unusual abilities. She could sense things before they happened, and at times she seemed to possess an uncanny knowledge of the world. It was as if the Dayan's power was somehow transferring to her, a dangerous yet fascinating metamorphosis. Jalaj was both terrified and exhilarated. He saw in Anya the potential to break the curse, to save them both. But the changes in her were drastic, and he feared for her safety. Meanwhile, the Dayan's presence grew stronger. Her mournful wails echoed through the night, a haunting melody that filled Jalaj with a sense of dread. He knew that the Dayan was growing impatient, her power increasing with each passing day. Then, one night, as a storm raged outside, something changed. The wind howled like a wounded beast, and the house shook with an otherworldly force. Anya screamed, her body convulsing. When the storm finally subsided, she was different. Her eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and her voice, when she spoke, carried a chilling echo. "He is coming," she said, her voice a mere whisper. Jalaj's heart pounded in his chest. Who was coming? And why did it feel like the end was near? A shadow seemed to loom over Kurseong, a darkness that crept into the hearts of its inhabitants. People began to disappear, their fates unknown. Fear gripped the town, a palpable sense of dread that hung heavy in the air. Jalaj knew that the final confrontation was approaching. The Dayan's curse was reaching its climax, and he was the only one who could stop it. But to do so, he would have to face his greatest fear, a battle against forces beyond human comprehension. A shadow was creeping over Kurseong, a malevolent force that fed on fear. The disappearances were no longer isolated incidents. They were becoming a plague. People lived in terror, their hearts heavy with dread. The once peaceful town was now a ghost of its former self. Anya's transformation was complete. The gentle girl he had fallen in love with was gone, replaced by a being of immense power, a being consumed by darkness. Her eyes, once filled with warmth, now held the cold depths of the abyss. She was a prisoner of the Dayan's curse, a puppet dancing on the strings of fate. Jalaj knew he had to act, and quickly. He gathered what little information he could about the growing darkness. Old tales, whispered secrets, and forgotten prophecies became his guide. He learned of an ancient ritual, a way to confront the darkness head-on. It was a perilous path, fraught with danger, but it was their only hope. The night of the ritual arrived, a night thick with the promise of doom. A storm raged outside, mirroring the chaos within Jalaj's soul. Anya stood by his side, her eyes filled with a strange serenity. They were surrounded by the remnants of the old temple, the stones imbued with the echoes of the past. As the first rays of dawn touched the horizon, Jalaj began the ritual. He called upon the ancient spirits, seeking their guidance and protection. The wind howled and the ground trembled. A darkness descended upon them, a darkness more profound than any they had encountered before. Then, from the depths of the darkness, a figure emerged. It was a monstrous creature, a shadow-given form. Its eyes burned with an unholy fire, and its voice was a cacophony of terror. The battle for the soul of Kurseong had begun. The battle was a maelstrom of chaos and despair. The dark entity, a monstrous manifestation of fear, unleashed its power upon them. The ground trembled, and the wind howled like a wounded beast. Anya, her eyes ablaze with an unnatural light, fought alongside Jalaj, her power a counterbalance to the darkness. Jalaj, armed with the knowledge of ancient rituals, channeled his energy into a protective shield. It was a desperate gamble, a last stand against the encroaching darkness. The entity lashed out, its attacks relentless. But Jalaj and Anya held their ground, their spirits unbroken. As the battle raged, the sky turned an ominous red. The moon, once a comforting presence, was now a blood-red orb, casting an eerie glow over the battlefield. The air was thick with the scent of fear and desperation. Suddenly, Anya's power surged, a blinding light erupting from her body. The dark entity recoiled, its form wavering. Jalaj, seizing the opportunity, unleashed the final phase of the ritual. He called upon the spirits of the earth, the sky, and the water, their combined power forming a protective barrier around them. The dark entity howled in rage, its attacks growing more frantic. But it was too late. The light from Anya, combined with the power of the ritual, was overwhelming. The dark entity began to disintegrate, its essence dissolving into the night. As the last remnants of the darkness faded, a sense of peace washed over them. The storm subsided, and the moon returned to its normal glow. The world was silent, the only sound the soft rustling of leaves. Anya collapsed into Jalaj's arms, her body trembling. She was weak, but there was a flicker of hope in her eyes. The curse was broken, the darkness vanquished. They had survived, but at a great cost. Kurseong was in ruins, its people traumatized by the events of the night. But amidst the devastation, there was a sense of hope, a belief that they could rebuild. Jalaj looked at Anya, her hand resting gently on his. He knew that their journey was far from over. The scars of the battle would remain, but so too would the strength they had gained. Together, they would rebuild their lives, and perhaps one day they would find a way to heal the wounds of their town. As the first rays of dawn touched the horizon, casting a golden light over the ruined landscape, Jalaj held Anya close. In that moment, surrounded by the remnants of their struggle, he found a peace he had never known before. The battle was over, but the story was far from finished. The morning after the battle dawned with an eerie silence. Kurseong was a ghost town, a desolate landscape of shattered dreams. The once vibrant town was now a canvas of despair, a testament to the darkness that had nearly consumed it. Jalaj and Anya stood amidst the ruins, their bodies weary but their spirits unbroken. They had defeated the darkness, but the road to recovery was long and arduous. They had lost friends, family, and a part of themselves in the process. The task of rebuilding was immense. They needed to restore hope, to heal the wounds of the town. It would be a long journey, filled with challenges, but they were determined to face them together. Anya, though weakened by the battle, possessed a resilience that amazed Jalaj. She became the heart and soul of the rebuilding efforts, inspiring hope where there was despair. Her ability to connect with people, to understand their pain, was a source of strength for the community. Jalaj, with his knowledge of the world beyond Kurseong, became the bridge between the town and the outside world. He sought aid, resources, and support, working tirelessly to bring their community back to life. Together, they faced the challenges with unwavering determination. They rebuilt homes, established support groups, and created opportunities for the survivors. Slowly but surely, hope began to rekindle in the hearts of the people. As time passed, their bond deepened. The love they shared had been tested in the fires of adversity, emerging stronger and more resilient. They found solace in each other's arms, a sanctuary from the storm. Kurseong was reborn, not as it once was, but as something stronger, more resilient. The scars of the past would forever be a part of them, but they had learned to live with them, to find strength in their shared experiences. Jalaj and Anya became symbols of hope, a testament to the human spirit's ability to endure and prevail. Their story was a beacon of light, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, love and courage can conquer all. And so they lived, two souls intertwined, their hearts filled with the promise of a new beginning. Kurseong, once a town haunted by shadows, was now a place of hope, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. Years passed. Kurseong transformed. The scars of the past remained, etched into the town's collective memory, but they were now a testament to resilience, not despair. The town stood as a symbol of hope, a beacon for those who dared to dream. Jalaj and Anya became the heart of this resurgence. Their love story, a saga of courage and resilience, was whispered in hushed tones. They raised a family, children who grew up in a world that was healing, a world shaped by their parents' sacrifice. The old temple, once a place of darkness, was rebuilt as a memorial, a place of remembrance and hope. Every year, on the night of the battle, the town would gather to commemorate the victory over fear. It was a night of celebration, a reminder that even in the face of darkness, the human spirit can prevail. And so, the story of Kurseong, a tale of terror and triumph, continued to unfold. It was a story of loss and rebirth, of love and courage, of a town that refused to be defined by its past. It was a story of hope, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. And as the sun set on another day, casting long shadows over the rejuvenated town, Jalaj and Anya stood hand in hand, watching as the new generation carried the torch of hope. Their journey was far from over, but as they looked into each other's eyes, they knew that together they could face anything.